Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and ITY TV interview. I'm joined today by Sanjiv Verma. He is the Vice President of RUCKUS Networks, Asia Pacific CommScope. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Alex, and I'm pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you.
Good morning, everyone.
Yes. Now, Sanjiv, CommScope was founded 45 years ago in 1976. So what was CommScope's first offering, and what are the products and services that this has grown to and evolved into today?
Alex, you are right. CommScope was established 45 years ago, and it started as in the business of the coax cable. And over the period of time, over the decades, obviously the initial focus was to selling to the cable provider, but over a period of time, company has evolved the portfolio. So today we can offer end-to-end networking solution that includes wired, wireless, broadband, outdoor wireless antenna, and also providing for 5G solutions. So now is a complete portfolio which we have.
And what are the biggest growth areas that CommScope is seeing at the moment?
So there are several areas where we are participating, are growing very aggressively. As you know, with the pandemic, we were all relying on broadband working from home. So that's obviously one area which was growing very well for us. And then when you look into the other portfolios, which I have, wired, wireless, with a lot of investments going into the schools and upgrading of their networks in most of the country. So we saw surge in our wired wireless business because of that trend, right? Then with the deployment of 5G, the outdoor wireless antenna business also has been growing. So all these areas where we participate in are growing. And also when you look into the cabling infrastructure, which we provide to hyperscaler, and all the hyperscalers have been growing because of the reliance on the cloud, and we were all working from home. So in overall, these are the areas which we participate in, and these are the markets which are growing.
Now, another market that's bouncing back to life is the hospitality industry, another area that CommScope is involved in. So what are some of the specific use cases for your evolved IoT and smart building solutions?
Yeah, so hospitality is one area which, obviously in the last 2 years with pandemic, most of us could not travel. Now with the border restriction easing, like also in Australia, they have eased now. So we expect that hospitality industry is going to ramp up, very, very quickly. And with the pandemic is still here, we are learning how to live with pandemic, right? And because of that, there is a lot of focus on safe distancing. There is a lot of focus on, how services can be provided contactless, right? So a lot of the focus is in those areas. And also, as you know, with the sustainability being one of the key focus is we are looking into how hospitality or property owners can, use IoT technology to run their infrastructure efficiently, how they can utilize their assets more efficiently, save energy, basically cut down their utility bills. So these are some of the things which hospitality industry is looking into now.
Sure. And are there some other immediate benefits that hotels can take advantage of in adopting the IoT technologies, as well as what are some of the challenges?
Yeah, so definitely, today, if you look at some of the basic stuff which hotels have been doing it for a while, so that is the simple locks. The locks, if you look at when we walk into hotel, we check in, and we've been using those cards for a while, right? Obviously, there are more extension to that implementation. And then there were certain other basic things which were there in place, but now, things are getting more advanced. So in the advanced things is, especially on the energy side or on the climate side, how the temperature of the room can be regulated so that air quality and all that is kept in a nice, good shape, because there are sensors available today by which you can monitor the quality. Also, on the physical security side, sometimes guests by mistake leave the door open and they walk away because you assume the door will close by itself, but it does not happen, right? So in those cases, what happens is if door is open for certain duration, alerts can be sent to the control room so that one of the personnel of hotel can come in and close the door. So there are many such use cases which are emerging and which can be used, even on the maintenance side, physical security I talked about sustainability, air quality side. So there are many such cases are there now, and there will be a lot more which will come in the future.
And are there any Australian or Asia Pacific customers that you'd like to highlight that are implementing these technologies?
I think if you look at a lot of the branded hotels like Hyatt, Marriott, and other big chains, they are, deploying these technologies because basics technology has been there in most of the hotel. But now even some of the advanced use cases are being deployed because COVID has brought forward, the acceleration of adoption for these technologies. So you will see a lot of the branded hotels will be looking into, like, people are even looking into IVR based ordering, so that you don't need to touch the phone and pick up the phone and call someone to order, right? So you should be able to do it with IVR. So a lot of those things are going to be deployed, so depending on, when the hotels are upgrading their infrastructure at what stage, but you will see all this coming up, like most recent revamps, will deploy first, or the new properties which are coming, they will do first, and subsequently everybody will do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously all of this is designed to streamline processes and for everybody to operate more efficiently, the back of the house, the front of the house, and the hotel guests themselves. I mean, I'm sure I'll see in the future, if there isn't already there, some sort of app from those major hotels that gives me control over my room, sends the alert to me that, I'm walking down, I'm downstairs in the at the lobby, and my phone says, hey, you didn't close your door, so I can quickly go back upstairs and check it. So it's good to see that these ongoing upgrades are happening, and clearly CommScope is one of the big companies making all of this happen.
Yeah.
Now, security is a key concern for hotel guests. We just mentioned the fact that you can lock those doors, but also you don't want people hacking into your to your room. As hotels start to implement all of these advanced security systems, both for property as a whole and for individual guest rooms, how do we ensure that they will not be hacked or bypassed?
Yeah. So Alex, you brought a good point. So, the security can be broken into two pieces. Like I briefly touched on the physical security, which is, the door is not open, or for the safety of the staff, like if there can be harassment cases or something. So in those cases, the hotel staff can be wearing a kind of alarm or a small device, by which if they are under trouble, they can trigger it. And with the help of real-time location system, somebody can come and help them, right? So all that was part of physical security. You have cameras, which can be integrated with IoT for monitoring, and then motion detectors, so all those things are there for physical security. And then you look into the cyber security, like you mentioned about hacking and all that. And that's like any other network, right? Hotel is treated like an enterprise customer also, except you have a lot more, people in the rooms, and each have their own devices, correct? And so what you are dealing with is now, like in a typical enterprise environment, you have BYOD, people bring in their phone, and IT managers have to worry about the security and all that. Same way in hotel, people are bringing their devices, but now the problem is more complex here because you have no control what kind of set they will bring, and which OS they are running, have they upgraded it or no. So clearly that poses a challenge. So what it means is that in the hospitality industry, the IT managers who are working, or the security expert, they have to treat this like a extended enterprise environment. So all that needs to be protected like any other enterprise by implementing the right security solutions so that customer data is protected, and customers, while they are staying, they don't download any vulnerable software like, phishing attacks and all that. So a lot of those things have to dealt with like any other enterprise customers, like when you and I, we are working remotely, it's the same challenge, right? So those are the things which needs to be dealt. in any hospitality industry property.
Now, we touched on sustainability a little bit earlier, but now more than ever, there is a global and local focus on sustainability and green buildings. I mean, it's just a natural thing. Technology is providing a lot of the solutions here. So for the hospitality industry specifically, how would new technologies help hotels and other hospitality venues reduce their carbon footprint and their environmental impact?
Yeah. Alex, so if you look at a lot of the hotels have been talking about sustainability by giving option to customers, whether you want your linens or your towels to be changed. And you and I, we have been all experiencing that for years, right?
Yeah, decades.
And that will continue. Obviously, that is, it gives a choice to customer. If you believe in sustainability, you want to utilize those things for a little bit longer, right? Period. So that part will continue because that is a human behavior based, right? And preference. And today, most of the customers are more aware on sustainability. So you will see that adoption will increase. Now let's look into the environment side, right? The lighting in the hotel room, the temperature, air quality, because air conditioning and lighting use, it produces a lot of carbon footprint. So clearly, with the motion detectors, so what can be deployed in a hotel property is that when you enter the room, only then the lights will turn on. If you leave the room, they are automatically off. Those things are even coming into offices where you have, a timing set. After certain time, if there is no motion being detected, the lights are shut down.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
So those are the solutions which can be implemented with the help of IoT in a hotel room, that only when the door is open, light will be turned on. And when you leave the door and you did not switch off the lights, it can detect the motion, it can turn it off. So there is a saving there. Also with the air conditioning, the air quality, that's where a lot of the carbon footprint comes from. So temperature can be regulated, air quality can be monitored so that we save energy there. So these are a lot of the things which can be deployed to improve the sustainability. And there will be more things coming because, as you know, there is a global focus with the recent event, which took place in Europe. So there is a lot of focus even at a very senior level of the country leaders, right? So we expect a lot more technologies will be deployed in this area, and you will see more and more new solutions will come.
Yeah. And look, as a person who travels and uses hotel rooms and the like, I mean, sometimes you leave the card in the door because you want the aircon to keep going. But I mean, I'd love to be able to have access through an app to say, look, I'll be back in my room in 10 minutes. We turn the aircon on now, and I have to be, as a guest, have to be honest and not have it going for an hour. If you could do it 10 minutes beforehand, then you come and it's a nice and cool room, and that gives the guests some choice, but it also gives the hotel the ability to say, well, we are sustainable and we're using these technologies. Now, we did talk about opening, the borders are opening up, and Australia's borders are finally opening up both domestically and internationally, and there are still some hiccups there with certain states that aren't quite as vaccinated as others. But what else can hotels do and implement to boost travelers' confidence and attract more guests to the property, while at the same time allowing hotels to ensure the safe distancing and government COVID health and safety protocols are being met? You did talk about sensors, you did talk about some of this in the past, but is there some more specific stuff you want to mention?
Yeah, so clearly, Alex, you brought up the point, right? Because now travel is opening up for a lot of vaccinated people in most of the countries, right? Obviously, some of the situation is very dynamic. It will change, depending on how the situation of COVID will be in that particular country or particular area, right? But one of the things which is very important is that customer, or the travelers need to have that confidence that I will be safe when I'm traveling, right? So some of the things I already talked about, it's safe distancing and all that. The part which I did not talk so far, which can give a big confidence to people is the hygiene part, the cleanliness, So what needs to be done also is use automated technology for even cleaning and maintaining the hygiene in property, because keeping the safe distancing in mind, that becomes very, very important, right? So there are robots available There are ultraviolet lights available now for disinfection. So these are some of the things which need to be utilized so that it gives confidence to traveler. And the most important thing is the self-service portal for doing the check-ins, check out, using IVR wherever possible. And obviously, I talked about implementing IoT, for monitoring some of these things. So these are the thing. And, also like we talk about sustainability, one of the things which is very important is the air quality. Because if you see a lot of the recommendations which has been made by the health specialists, the number of air circulation and the filters which are needed, to have COVID not being spread, so those are certain requirements, which has been published by the health authorities. So all those things need to be implemented so that customer or traveler feels confident that I'm going to this property, they have taken care of all this and they are maintaining safe distances. And I'm also socially responsible, because at the end of the day, travelers need to be also socially responsible, right? So if all that has been done and people will feel safe, that will help to, boost the traffic again for travelers to be back. So that's what I will suggest, but there will be many more things which can be done. But these are some of the, the fundamental things which I will say, which needs to be done, and that also include, like, I've seen some of the places where they have even implemented automated delivery of the food to your room with the help of robot. Yeah. So that's why I said there are a lot of things. So the whole idea is that reduce the human to human touch as much as possible, leverage all the technologies to do the task, whether it is AI or IoT or robotics, or IVR, but these are the things which needs to be implemented to cut down the touch, and everybody is safe, everybody is happy, and we are back to our normal life.
Yeah. Now, I'm just to mention a few things I've seen. I've seen these robots in San Francisco. I mean, I wasn't there, but I saw it on the YouTube, where they have these robots that come and they can pop open, and there's things that you can pull out of them yourself. I remember with the Diamond Princess in Japan, they were worried that the virus was going from room to room via the ventilation system. And so I know there are UVC filters and physical filters, and in a lot of the schools in the Australian state of Victoria, they've purchased a lot of these in classroom filtration systems. And I've also seen robots that do the UVC cleaning, these giant robots that go around. So it's all happening. I mean, there's been a lot of digital acceleration in this space. And I mean, COVID has had a few silver linings. I mean, it's been terrible. It's been awful. But some of the silver linings of this digital acceleration has brought some real benefits to humanity. So I'm very pleased to see that.
Yeah. You mentioned all the right things, Alex. That's what is going on right now, right?
Now, as we get towards the end of the interview, I always, because I have a technology executive in front of me, I always like to find out, what's your memory of your first computer?
Okay, very good question. So my memory of first computer goes back to, I don't know if you recollect, there used to be a company in UK, ICL.
Okay, yeah, that rings a bell.
And I'm talking about back in 80s, right? When I was student still, doing my engineering degree, and we had these big computers those days, and we didn't have these nice fancy terminals or laptop that we can sit and do it. So we used to have these machines with punch card. So we used to have these cards, and we will punch it, and then you stack all these cards together, and then you give it to the computer center, and they will have a reader to run it, and then you get the output of the program on a paper printed, right? So that was, and can you imagine those days when, if suppose accidentally you drop those cards, they are out of sequence, and then you have to spend time. So that's my memory. Obviously, after that, all the processors came, and then things accelerated. Yeah, very, very quickly after that with laptops. So by the time I joined the industry to work, we had laptops almost coming, So that's my memory of computers right back then.
And what is a little bit about your own personal history in the world of tech?
Okay, so I started working back in 1985, right? Mm-hmm. And when I started working, obviously networking was still a very infancy state. There were no standards. But in a couple of years, when I was in the industry, obviously networking standards start to be ratified, and I'll come to it. But I remember those days we used to have mini computers, right? And there was a company known as Digital, which, I don't know if you heard.
Digital Equipment Corporation.
The name. Yeah, Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC. And then HP was also there, Hewlett Packard. So with all that, going on over a period of time, and I still remember the disk drive used to be huge, not like floppies. Today, like, yes, correct. And huge disk drive, like size of like 2 feet by this size. And it used to be only like 500 meg kind of thing, right?
500 kilobytes.
And you could see the hard disk has that platter running inside, I could see even. And tapes used to be like big tape, you load it up. Correct?
Absolutely.
So I saw all that. And then obviously with the revolution of microprocessors and PCs and laptop, things really accelerated. So that was on the computer side. But on the networking side, we used to have coax cable. So when I, started working in early days, there was no, UTP, the cable which we use, Cat5, Cat6 cable. It used to be the coax cable. And those we used to deploy, and then fiber start to come in, but it was simple point-to-point connection. So that's how things, if you look at over a period in the last 30 years, it has evolved very quickly, how the speeds, those coax cables were 10 meg Ethernet cable. Right.
Yeah. And now they're 10 gigabits.
10 gig is like considered a normal, right?
That's right.
But on the core, people are deploying 400 gig.
So absolutely.
So that's my, history from where we started. And obviously, as you know, in the last 10 years with the focus on the cloud, with, software as a service. So a lot of things have been evolving. So this is one industry which has progressed a lot when we look at in technology.
Absolutely. Now, from the past to the future, how do you see CommScope evolving over the next couple of years? And where do you see the networking and communications industry in the 2030s, when 6G will theoretically be rolling out, high-speed satellite broadband will be ubiquitous, and people's brains might even be wired to access the internet directly through some sort of brain chip, if this last one isn't sort of 10 years too early?
I'll share my personal view. How I see these technologies, like you rightly said, will have, after 5G, 6G, 7G, who knows, it may be 8G, right? So that will continue. So what it means is that when you're mobile, there will be a lot more bandwidth available. And the remote areas where, you can't reach with the mobile infrastructure, because for telcos to deploy a remote, infrastructure in remote areas, like in Australia and some very remote areas, is very hard to get connectivity, right? With a normal RAN-based technology. So those cases, the satellite-based technologies will be very, very handy. And you have seen, I'm sure, Jeff Bezos' company is trying to build those, some of those. So you will see satellite-based internet broadband will be available at some stage, right? And that will help with the coverage in a lot of the rural areas where densities are low, especially population density is low, is not profitable for a commercial service provider to go deploy the network there, right? So that's where, and then so clearly bandwidth utilization and bandwidth hungry customers will continue to increase. There is no doubt about it, right? Because you will have more and more apps, more and more stuff which you will consume will be video based, right? So like watching movie on phone and all those kinds of stuff, it will need more and more bandwidth because content will be on demand, correct? So now let's touch upon some of the areas you talked about, the chips in the brain. That's going to be a reality, I will say. Okay. I can't predict the exact timeline, But if you track the news like Neuralink, another company of Elon Musk, he's working on that area also, right? So there is a lot of research. This is one of the emerging area where there's a lot of research is going on, looking into how some of these electronic technologies can be used to deal with old age problems, right? So that's where a lot of that focus is right now. And certainly, where technologies have evolved even in healthcare, I'm confident that we will see some of these things in next couple of years to come, right? So that's my view, how I see world will evolve, and you will see a lot more use of AI and all that, which you are seeing even today, but it will become a lot more prevalent, and things will be more personalized for you. Is your choice if you want to look into those or if you don't, but there will be enough sophistication where I look at in the technology that they will make your preference, they will know because of whatever you do, and they will give you very focused content even.
Artificial intelligence will become a lot more intelligent.
Yeah. So these are some of my thoughts, I will say, and I'm sure you are aware of quite a lot of things, and you are very well versed with these technologies and concepts which are, taking place. So I'm sure we will see a lot of exciting stuff in many years to come.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time to be alive. Despite the pandemic, the technology keeps moving forward, and
yes,
I'm very grateful for that. Now, my second last question is simply to ask you, what's the best piece of advice that you've received in life to help you get where you are today?
Sure. Thanks, Alex. So, a couple of years ago, or not couple, I'll say many, many years ago, one of my boss said to me that, Sanjiv, when you make a decision, move forward, don't look back and regret. Focus on what you have decided to do then, and focus on the outcome. Okay. Never look back and regret that why I did it. So I always remember that. And I always share this with all my friends, colleagues, that, this is one of the best piece of advice which my manager gave because I resigned from that job, and I was leaving the organization, and obviously he tried his best to stop me, but at the end my decision was to move on. And then he said, I want to give you this piece of advice, so remember this, and I know you will be very successful what you are going to do. So I always remembered that parting word of my manager.
Yeah. Well, it dovetails beautifully with the old-fashioned saying, there's no point crying over spilled milk. You got to focus on the future.
Yeah.
So what is your final message to IT Wire viewers and readers, and to your current and future customers and partners?
So, Alex, what I will say is, as we talked about, with so much new stuff is coming, correct? So many new technologies is coming. So what I tell, all my friends and customers and partners is, first of all, whatever infrastructure you are trying to build, try to keep it simple and scalable, because you don't know what technology is going to come, and you got to support on that infrastructure. So what it means is you need a robust infrastructure, and that's where CommScope's play, because we can provide complete end-to-end infrastructure, right from wired, wireless to different 5G technologies, broadband technologies, right? So simplicity, scalability, right? That is very, very important. And also be open to the new ideas and new technologies which are coming, especially on the software world. On the software world, things are moving a lot faster than the physical world, I will say. So that's the piece which I tell, that look into what's coming and see how it's going to help you operationally, simplify your management of the infrastructure which you are running, so that you can manage that complexity. First is try to build simply, simplify and scalable. But obviously there will always be complexity as you are supporting new solution, because you build the infrastructure and now you want to add stuff on top. Correct? So clearly, look into all that. Keep always that in mind that there will be changes, and we have to adapt to it, and be open to look into what is there and how I can leverage it, and always learn. Always learn, because there are two things which I always say is change in life will be constant, and second, learn. So so my best advice is, keep these in mind. And if you can do all that, you will always be employable, you will always be young, and you will always stay healthy.
Well, Sanjiv Verma, Vice President, RUCKUS Networks, Asia Pacific at CommScope, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you for your great advice, and I hope we can talk again in the future.
Thanks, Alex, and it's a pleasure to be here, and it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you
very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.